All right, so what's wrong with Will Smith? I'm a little worried about him. See, I just saw the last two movies he was in, and both of them have the same plot. Now, none of the rest of you might have noticed this, because the target market for these two films is very different, but they're the same movie. In it, Will Smith wants to solve problems with violence, but his partner does not. And they have a clash because of that they need to overcome, ultimately resulting in Will Smith realizing that violence is not the answer. Also, in both films, there's something going on with like a paternal sonship relationship that Will Smith has to deal with. Will, are you asking for help, man? I'm a big fan of your movies, but are you okay? Did something happen with Aladdin that maybe frightened you a little bit? Do you wish you stayed as like a family-friendly entertainer instead of becoming an action hero? I don't know what it's about, but I do know that both of these two films, both of which I enjoyed, engaged the same problem in kind of different ways. In Spies in Disguise, Will Smith's character is a super spy who does not want to use less than lethal force to attack his problems. Whereas in Bad Boys, he is a super cop whose partner does not want to continue killing people, even bad guys, because Jesus wouldn't like it. Well, I gotta tell you, I agree. I think you're making really good points with these films. Jesus would not like it. If it is all avoidable, you shouldn't kill. You shouldn't murder people, even bad guys. We want to show mercy to everyone we possibly can. Now, we can ask complex moral questions all day long. What does it take to save a life? And would you pull the cord on the trolley to save more people? And all of that. But ultimately, how much time do we spend glorifying violence versus how much time do we spend glorifying peace? And Will, if you're asking that question for your career, I'm asking that question too. As I do movie pastor, I am consistently finding myself in the movies. I mean, I'm even learning how to do filmmaking. I'm learning how to do video making and video editing. And I'm engaging with these ideas. And one of the central questions is, hey, at what point is watching a movie that's violent, is watching a movie that has sexual themes, is watching a movie that I wouldn't necessarily recommend my congregants watch, giving extra credence and extra glory to themes and ideas that we shouldn't give glory and credence to. And I feel comfortable with the fact that I'm engaging with these ideas and I'm talking about them from a theological perspective, and I'm doing so hopefully with adults that are also acting freely and not encouraging people to do things they wouldn't otherwise. But there is a question to, like, at what point does it get to be too much? One of the central areas that question comes up is with the myth of redemptive violence. Central to most of the stories we tell one another is the idea that someone, somewhere, some hero is going to rise and he's going to use violence to save us. That there's going to be some way in which the bad guy can get violently destroyed, and then there will be no more bad guy and it'll just be good. The Jesus story runs exactly contrary to that. As much as we can find Jesus and we can find truths about theological ideas in all of these stories, including stories most of which are based around the myth of redemptive violence, the Jesus story has the hero not perform an act of violence, refuse an act of violence, and instead take violence personally upon themselves in order to destroy not the villain, not Caesar, but the evil that is present in and among us. That's the real villain of the story. Well, how do we engage that? How do we tell better stories that help us to learn that idea and help that idea to settle from our brains down into our hearts? I don't know, but I do know I enjoyed both of these movies, and they're a start. I mean, they're starting somewhere to talk about it. I hope we get to talk about it more with more movies coming up. If you've got thoughts, I hope you'll talk about them down here, and I hope you'll watch these other videos where I talk about each of the movies individually and do the stuff, and subscribe. Bye!